Hello, everyone. We're going to discuss training and development and personal growth. From all of you, the experience that you have, what can you tell us more about training and personal growth within your own company?
I mean, first of all, I think it's important that we differentiate between the two. Sometimes, people think that, okay, training, personal growth are interchangeable, but in reality, personal growth is so much bigger than training programs and events and so on that we run. So, those of you who are familiar with the kind of 70-20-10 rule would know that it's actually a very small amount of our personal development comes from the training that we attend. So I think the focus that we try and give to our people is a holistic focus, so getting people to feel really energized and excited about the fact that there is non-stop learning, there's always something new that they can throw themselves into, there's always the next step for them, why do you need to look outside of the company when there are so many opportunities, within the company? And so our focus is very much on that, hunger for learning. And whenever I say this, I always think about, recently I met a 90-plus-year-old guy who had a fantastic life story, a fantastic career. And he was telling me about how he spends his time and his life at the moment. And, he's got all his social media accounts set up, and he's got, he's on the newspapers and online and things like that. And he really doesn't need to be, he could be comfortably at home watching television and not bothering about these things at this point in his life. But he's got a lifelong learning approach, and I really like that. And I always think, okay, if we can instill this in our people, that excitement and that want to learn, it's fantastic, for them, for us, for everyone. So that's the focus.
Okay, thanks.
Very similar to what Stefania is saying, definitely. So it's like the full journey. It's a full journey for the person who joins the company from the hiring aspect on towards determination or whatever. So for me, training is just a little part of personal growth, right? Personal growth is enabled through conversations, through coaching, through feedback, through one-to-one meetings, through on-the-job training. So there's a whole lot for us to do. And the key for us as HR is, one, to excite our people, and also to enable our people and enable our line managers to recognize how to do it. Because many a times, one, because of time pressure or because of other things, it could be the line manager or the manager is not into that aspect of training and development and personal growth. So it's also an area and responsibility for HR to harness that aspect, and harness that need for learning and growth, and make sure our people are aware that journey within the organization and how they can do it. All the processes, all the structure, all the feedback that we give, how we partner with the business.
Okay. Mikolaj, sort of a different question. For training and development, how do you approach when you're looking at the leadership of your company?
Mm-hmm. So for the past 5 minutes, I was preparing answer for that, but all I can do is just repeat what you said. So from the leadership perspective, I think what's important to say is that many times learning development teams are just seen as the ones who deliver training for an hour or two, or even worse, we invite an external company that does it for us, which is totally isolated, and it's done. But exactly as you just said, what leaders need to do and what we need to do is to foster a culture that gives permission to learn. And to link it to the previous panel, I think thinking about hybrid and remote setup, it helps us even more right now to have more time for that. When we were running some workshops asking people how do they use the time they saved on traffic, on commuting, etc., they said, well, I'm either sleeping more, or I learn something, or I read a book, I join some courses. So I think there is already a shift of mindset that happened recently.
When you mentioned something specific, for example, external companies for training, and you say they're not that much engaged. How can us, all of us over here, think about how to can engage them even more within the company to understand even more?
Yeah, didn't want to discount the fact that external companies do provide great training. It was more about having them as isolated parts of just, okay, there's a prompt communication, let's invite someone to run one workshop about it. I think it's more about us creating a culture in which developing skills, mentoring, coaching is just part of daily conversations, in which it belongs to the culture of the company, etc., to our values. Not sure if I answered your question, though.
No, that's perfect. Fine.
Point as well, I think sometimes with focusing too much on external training providers, we miss an opportunity within our own people to give them that opportunity to act as trainers themselves, to showcase themselves as a subject matter expert. And I think when it comes to developing our leaders, there are so many little opportunities going on a day-to-day basis in our companies that we overlook because maybe we haven't thought through things properly, or everyone's so busy, so we think let's not, stop them and ask them to do things. But that in itself is a learning opportunity for our people and our future leaders or our current leaders. Ivan, in his introduction earlier on, he mentioned the student internship programs that LeoVegas have done in collaboration. And basically, we try to make sure that the mentorship of these programs and of these students and so on is done by our up-and-coming, strong performers, our leaders, because too many times we look at people, we give them a managerial role, promote them or whatever, and then we're like, okay, why are they not, managing to handle people? Why aren't they developing people in the right way? But what is the journey that you have taken them through and the opportunities that you have given them in order to prepare them for that moment? So we as HR and the leaders are very much accountable to drive that journey, I think.
Okay, so the question comes here. When you have these kind of people, that they're managers, but the training was never given to them to be actual managers, how do you go about it for them to have that current role in the company that can actually train and be the actual managers and even role models for your company?
It's very challenging, it's very challenging when somebody hasn't been trained and brought up in that mindset. But it's not impossible. It sort of depends on the openness on the individual to learn and to develop and how, I guess, emotionally intelligent they are in order to take on coaching or training or whatever needs to be done to develop them. The challenge arises when you find people that are highly technical, and they perhaps lack some of the managerial skills, and they do not recognize that they lack these skills. They think they're doing a wonderful job, when it comes to their people. So I think it's about, first of all, the awareness. So being able to bring feedback to them, to discuss with them, and so on. And then there are many programs that exist, through coaching and so on, where you develop people. But we have to keep in mind that you don't just send somebody to a leadership training or a management skills training and poof, they're manager of the year. You need to go through a plan and a journey with them, I think.
You're correct. Claire, question for you. Coming from the first panel, actually, on recruitment. But when it comes when you engage a new employee within your company, what possibilities you tell them for their own personal growth and what kind of training they have?
Okay, first of all, I think this is something that we also discussed when we had a chat together a few weeks ago. I think as an industry, yes, it's true, we are very known for our parties, for the breakfasts and lunches, but as a Maltese and hand on heart, I can say that for me, being in this industry for 4 years and having worked in other industries before, I can say that if we had to collectively collect everything, all the expenses, all the time that we dedicate to personal growth and development as an industry, I think we, hand on heart, I can say we are leading in that aspect. So although we are renowned for the fun, but let's not forget that who we are is this, and it also comes across from the HR Connect meetings that we have, where we discuss how important it is and all the great things we are doing, from that aspect. So I am a big fan of, when we start the hiring process, of telling the candidates of the other great aspects, we have, not just the nice meals or the villa where we're working or the garden, or the rooftop. But I also tell them about, first of all, we take them through a process where they are understanding more things about themselves, where they have the opportunity to do assessment, we give feedback, so we're quite thorough around that. And it also tells them a lot about how we look into the personality aspect and the personal aspect, not just the technical aspect. And then obviously we tell them around what we have available, like, I don't know, whether it's Udemy, team building, training, external partners, internal, so yeah. But I like to do both. So we tell them about the perks, but then we very much highlight around the other serious, so the other meaty stuff.
Okay, so even picking this on from Identity Malta, that all of us need to come together, collaborating all together. And you mentioned something that we don't promote that much, training and personal growth. Mikolaj, what do you think, and how would you look at this, how we can go forward to promote this kind of things from all of us working all together to attract?
First of all, just listening about some aspects of the onboarding, I think then we need separate onboarding for leaders to even help them realize how important their role is in it. And luckily, I do have luxury of time to spend at least 30 minutes with each new leader and to just introduce myself personally and say, hey, what do you need in this role? Instead of just telling them, hey, here's your toolbox, use it. I rather prefer to ask, what do you need in your role? How can I help you? Or if leaders transitioned from role of a specialist to a leader, I'm starting kind of a coaching conversation asking, how do you find being a leader of your ex-colleagues, now you're a leader of them, how do you find that transition? And then it will just, in the conversation, they will figure out, well, actually, I need some coaching. Well, I need to read more about it. So they find it out themselves. I think this is one of the things. But directly to your question, I think what we can do more is, I think, just to give permission to people to join different initiatives. Because just to know that it exists is just one thing, but to give them permission that actually they can spend 20, 30 minutes each day to read something, to watch a TED Talk, to join a webinar, to listen to a podcast, give them permission and not punish that. I think this is one thing we can do. And secondly, leaders and execs needs to be so vocal about it and lead by example and starting their meetings by saying, hey, today I joined this webinar. Or today we're celebrating, I don't know, we're acknowledging Black History Month, and I read that and that. Or we have International Coming Out Day. How about talking about courage or diversity today? So linking it to what's happening in the world and saying that it matters. I think this is how we need to incorporate it in daily conversations, I would say.
Okay. You can elaborate a bit more on this topic as well, from your perspective as a major player in our industry as well.
Yes, I think this point of giving people the space to self-develop and to learn and so on is very important in an industry, as busy and as dynamic and so on as ours. I also think that we need to take it one step further and link it to our other processes and practices. So, for example, when we're having, a year-end conversation with our people and we're looking at their goals and if they've met them or if they haven't, and, some roles have, like it was said in another panel, some roles have tougher, more strict KPIs than others, and that type of conversation. how much are we talking about and celebrating the fact that somebody has taken the learning part of their role really seriously? How much are we identifying with them the gaps that they need to fill in order for them to progress to the next stage in their career? How much are we linking their learning and development to a career path within the organization and where it can take them? Because here we're talking about getting people excited. Okay, get excited about training, about developing yourself and so on. But just like with everything else in life, where's the carrot? What's in it for me? So if I am taking the 20 minutes, the 30 minutes and so on, how does that link to my progression and things like that? So we need to, as HR teams and as leaders, we need to make sure that everything is interlinked and people can really connect the dots of where this is going to take them. At LeoVegas, we see a lot of internal movement, which we're very proud of, so people moving from one team to the other. But we'd like to see so much more of it. And the way to do it is to make sure that we're communicating really clearly what opportunities there are for people. But more than that, communicating, okay, how do you get from A to B? What are the steps you need to take? What is the self-development that you need to do to get there?
Okay. There was a very good conversation last time we spoke, me and you, Mikolaj, about training and hybrid. With everybody at home and you're giving the training and everything. To everybody here, can you tell us what your feeling is and how do you go about it and your day-to-day life, especially now?
So I'm a huge fan of face-to-face training and bringing people together in a room. Especially, I'm so passionate about leadership training, and I think leadership is a relationship. It's so emotional, and it's so much about networking and collaboration that I always felt it's difficult to deliver virtual leadership trainings. So a year and a half we tried. We split sessions into shorter ones. We chosen the best subjects to deliver online, and I was so excited at first about it. And then I just got tired. And I think many of us, felt that it's so more difficult to drive engagement over virtual training courses, especially if you want people, present for a few hours online. They're losing attention every 5-10 minutes. They're doing things in the background. They're shopping online or they're playing on their phone. You'd never know, right? And you need them to be so much present. And I just realized last 30 minutes when I was listening to the previous panel, how present I was for these 30 minutes. Like never in the past 2 years, I was so present for 30 minutes, So it does make a huge difference. So the first thing I could do this spring was to bring people back for the training and just put them in a room again. Although I think we need to be mindful that there are subjects that can be delivered very nicely virtually. There are subjects that can be delivered in form of the e-learning. And there are subjects that I would say should be delivered face-to-face when it's something more about psychology, communication, nonviolent communication, talking about burnout, etc. I think there are some subjects that should be rather delivered in a format where people can see each other and have someone next to them. And so many problems are fixed as well during lunch sessions or breaks in between the sessions that you can't create it virtually. So I would always advocate for face-to-face training, I think. It's as well less tiring, I would say, for trainer. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone else feels like this, but delivering training for a whole day virtually and handling all the breakout rooms, Slido and questions and chat, and at the same time staying present with your content, I think it's very, very challenging. So I think it's good to acknowledge your favorite channel for delivery of training and just work with your strengths, I would say.
Okay, good. Anyone can continue on this particular topic, how you approach it when you're at the moment working in a hybrid model, office and everything?
I think your point around it depends on the topic is a really important one because recently we've launched some new leadership training for our people. And I'm not going to lie, it has been challenging because some of the topics of conversation are really quite sensitive and not easy to discuss. And when you're speaking to a screen and you're seeing these faces on the laptop, you try and you give your input, but there's always going to be, a little bit of a barrier there. I think maybe to give a positive spin to what I'm saying is there are also some advantages in that we were able to run this leadership training for the first time in a kind of cross-country way. So we're spread out in lots of different geographies, and it's quite nice that I'm attending and delivering and whatever this training, and the participants are from lots of different locations. So it does add that level of networking, if you can call it networking, remotely. But I think it does put much more pressure on the trainer to be innovative in the way that you engage people, in the way that you get them to pay attention. It's quite funny. I'm just thinking as we're talking about this that someone told me recently that there is a software for training that basically marks people who are not paying attention to the trainer. So if you flip from the screen that you're watching the training and you flip onto another website, a flag goes up next to the participant's name. And I thought, okay, that's one way of doing it, but do we really want to go down that road? But it's been tough times for trainers. Definitely, I fully agree.
Claire, what were your tough moments for training?
So what we have done is we paused the leadership training. We focused very much on one-to-one coaching and having smaller groups. So that's the decision that we collectively took after having quite a lot of conversations in-house around what people wanted to do. So the leadership programs have been paused. We focused more on one-to-one coaching. We had internal coaching, external coaches, and that's the way we did it. We still had team building happening like online and stuff, but we took a different twist to it. And it felt like people really wanted to have that one-to-one connection somehow as well, which has worked fine because quite a lot of the managers also were feeling the pressure of working remotely, being home, so they had very specific things that they wanted to work on. So we gave a breath and some space for that to happen during the last year and a half.
Okay. Do managers come to you and ask for more personal growth in their career?
In what sense, personal growth?
So, for personal growth, for them to continue advancing where they are currently right now, and how can they achieve it, and what kind of programs you can actually take them through?
Oh yes, it's happening like all the time, and not just from managers. And what we're living at the moment is seeing the younger generations who are becoming very impatient. They come in after 6 months. They come to you. Okay, what's next? What can I apply for? Can you remove the junior title from my role? So it's happening all the time. We're having these conversations all the time. So we're seeing also the younger generation who want to move fast really quickly, and are is not so patient, to learn and to really grow steadily. So that's one of the teams in the organization at the moment, to be honest with you, where we're seeing, because we have a customer service function, because we have quite a few junior roles, we are seeing that, and that's sort of something we're trying to get better at in making sure people have the space to grow, but also, have the hard conversations around, listen, you're not there yet. You will be there, once you address or once we work together on ABC. So that's something that we are working on at the moment.
I always give them the 2-year time.
2-year time?
2-year time.
But that's too long for the younger ones. No, forget it.
But then, different thing. No employee is bigger than the company as well.
Yeah, but I don't like to approach it like that either, because at the end of the day, you're also dealing with a human, with someone, who's in front of you who can go out of the organization and make it. He can get his aspirations right after all, and I don't want him to go out there saying we didn't push him to do it. I can be frank and tell him, listen. at betFIRST at the moment there's no space for you to do it because this is what we need, yes. But I'll still tell him, I had a conversation last week, I'll still tell him, but I do believe, if you believe, I can see the fire in your eyes, I can see you doing it, but this is not the right setup for you to do it, somehow.
Okay. Mikolaj, when employees are coming to you, especially managers, for more continuation of growth, but there are some things lacking. How do you go about to understand what are the missing key functions?
I think it's all about individual conversations that you have with them. Don't treat everyone the same way. So you need to have some sort of career framework or talent framework, and then you set goals and you just keep them accountable. I mean, it's your growth. It's not just something given. It's mutual. So there needs to be commitment from the employee, but also commitment from us. So I think it's all about figuring out the gap, setting goals, and truly having constant conversations and following up on that. And yes, 3 years is definitely way too much, yeah.